All right, I'm back from Chicago and ready to do another episode of the podcast. I'm excited about this one's episode. But before that, Chicago was a good trip. It's fun. I spent a lot of time. I think if you listen to the last episode, just going around and pitching to brands and this kind of stuff. So it was a lot of fun. I'm tired. I learned a lot, and I'm glad to be back. Glad to be home. So I just wanted to briefly talk today about developing a growth mindset and what that really means. If you're not familiar with that term, a growth mindset is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's just a tendency to believe that you can grow. That's really it. Uh, don't limit yourself. Always tell yourself, you can do hard things if you challenge and push yourself. And so that's the main idea of what a growth mindset is. There's a book called Mindset: The New Psychology of Success by Carol Dweck, if I'm saying that right. She explains that while a fixed mindset assumes that our character, intelligence, and creative ability are static and like you can't really change them, so they're just almost given into you, and that's if you have a fixed mindset. And a growth mindset thrives on a challenge and sees failure not as evidence of unintelligence, but as a heartening springboard for growth and for stretching our existing abilities. And that's a quote from her book. She continues on and just kind of talks about how you really need to believe that your qualities are not carved in stone, and it's kind of cheesy, but it is true. No matter what, if you have the ability to learn from mistakes, have the tendency to just to want to develop your own mind and grow and learn, then you'll be able to have what they say is a quote unquote growth mindset, always willing to try and push yourself and move forward. But going into that again, there's a quote from the book that I actually like. I'm going to read it, and if it sounds bad, just bear with me. But she says, this growth mindset is based on the belief that your basic qualities are things you can cultivate through your efforts. Although people may differ in every which way in their initial talents and aptitudes, interests, and temperaments, everyone can change and grow through application and experience. And that's the biggest thing that I think I wanted to cover today is as you go through life and you experience challenges, you face failures, you grow, you learn. There's two sides actually. So the first is you could take the approach of, you know what, that just sucked. Say you failed at for me, sales, you failed at a pitch and it doesn't work well. The client's not interested, doesn't go well. If you don't want to learn from that failure, then that's great. You can just continue to have a bad attitude. But instead, you could ask yourself, okay, well, where did I go wrong? Where could I improve on the next pitch that I have? And how can I just continue to learn more, be humble enough to take that kind of feedback and learn from these types of mistakes? Not saying that losing a sale is a mistake, but I hope you understand what I'm saying there. In this mindset, the hand you're dealt is just a starting point of development, really. So how does this apply to learning, and what can you do to instill this attitude into yourself? So I just wrote down like 8 different, after doing research and that kind of thing, I wrote down 8 different takeaways on how you can yourself develop a growth mindset. And the first is pretty simple. It's just embrace challenges. Life's hard. It's not going to get any easier. Accept it. And instead of shying away from the challenge, kind of push into it, right? Or see where you can learn and grow. Use it as an opportunity, not a challenge. Everything that you go through is going to be difficult in life. Right now, it's my first day of training for my marathon that I'm running in June. I ran 9 miles. It wasn't that fast. It wasn't that great. It was a challenge, but the other thing too is also an opportunity. And what I mean by that is like, I've been living in Utah and it's cold. It's been snowy and it's been kind of terrible. You can't really go outside. So I've been running on a treadmill and it's been I hate it. The only thing that keeps me going when I run on a treadmill is sometimes like SpongeBob will be playing on the TV and I'll just catch a glimpse of like Patrick Star and Squidward like hanging out and stuff. Sometimes that just keeps me going. But today I was like, okay, I'm done running on the treadmill. I don't want to do this. I was going to train with my friend, who I'm actually going to have on this podcast pretty soon. but he had some issues with like his phone. He couldn't, I don't know what was going on. But anyways, he didn't go. So I was by myself, pure solitude. And it was cold. I didn't really want to do it. But instead of being like, oh yeah, I can't really do it. It's a challenge to go outside and run in the cold. I ran outside, I bundled up, but the view of like the mountains with snow-capped peaks and stuff on them was beautiful. And it felt so good to run out with the sun on my face. And it's like, it's about time because my skin, I look like a vampire. You ever seen Twilight? I'm pretty sure Edward Cullen and I have the same skin complexion. So that's pretty nice. So that's the first one. I just say embrace challenges. The second one, learn from your failures. And I kind of briefly talked about this at the beginning, but don't look at failures as a negative outcome. Look at it as a step to the ladder of success, or whatever you want to say there. But learn from it and figure out where you went wrong, because the feeling of failure sucks. No one likes to fail. No one likes the feeling of failing. So learn from it. Try your best to be patient with yourself and analyze what went wrong and what you can do differently next time. From that, too, learning from failure, this kind of ties into the third point that I found, which is practice resilience and learn how to bounce back when you do fail, and don't take it personally. Oftentimes we're so hard on ourselves and we beat ourselves up, and it just is, it's not good for us, right? Like we'll fail at something that we try and do. Say, if you're in high school, you're in the state championship. It's the only example that's coming to my mind right now. And you lose. Learn from that. Bounce back. Maybe you should have practiced an extra 5 hours every week or whatever that might be. But practicing resilience is hard. You need to develop the ability to bounce back from setbacks and overcome obstacles. This means persevering through difficulties and maintaining a positive attitude, even when it is difficult and when you do lose and all these hard things. And that is really important. You got to learn how to just brush stuff off. As Jay-Z says, hey, you got to get that dirt off your shoulder, Brush that off. If you're watching this, get that dirt off your shoulder. The other part is just number 4 is focusing on the process and not necessarily the outcome or the goal. Because when you're fixated on the end result, you're focused on the process of just hitting that is what's going to negatively affect you if you do end up failing. So instead of doing that, focus on the process of learning and growing, and celebrate the small victories along the way and appreciate the journey. I kind of mentioned this last week in the podcast about overcoming fear and doubt. I threw the analogy of like a marathon trainer on there, which that's actually ironic because I'm training for a marathon now. Hey, yo. And basically saying like, everyone who hits that 26.2 miles at the end of the race, they're not celebrating the fact that they just did 26.2 miles. They're celebrating the fact that they trained for months to reach that. It takes a long time. It's hard. Running a marathon is not easy. I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to. And it's not easy training for it. I'll tell you that. But focus on the process, because you need to celebrate the small victories, no matter how tiny they might be. Marathon might be a bad example, but say you're trying to eat better food. And don't focus on I need to eat X amount of calories a day. I only get to eat salads, vegetables, and fruits. I'm only going to eat protein shakes. Liquid diet time, guys. Doing it. That's a bad call. Don't focus on that. Instead, focus on you making these changes in your life that help you reach that goal of, where you end up eating healthier. If you focus on the process of celebrating the small victories along the way, you'll end up where you want to be. And what I mean by that is if you want to eat healthier and you're getting stoked that you just ate 3 apples instead of a cheeseburger, I don't know what I'm saying, guys. It's a bad analogy, but what I'm trying to say is you'll get to the point where it's oh, I celebrated myself. It felt really good eating those apples. I didn't need a burger. I did what I said I would. I told myself I was going to eat healthier, and I'm making progress. Focus on the progress, not necessarily the end goal. Because oftentimes people are okay, I need to make a change in my life. And they get drastic in how they do that. And, New Year's resolutions are a great example. Everyone says, hey, I'm going to go to the gym every single day. hey, how about you just go once, see how it is. Don't go every day until you develop the habit and the consistency to where it's like part of your routine. If you start just going out the gate all the day, like every single day of the week you try and go to the gym, I guarantee you'll last a month. So be patient with yourself and just get to the gym, celebrate that win, and if you need to recover the next day, that's fine. But don't be stagnant. Go again, and then celebrate that. And then like once you start feeling better, you'll be good. And that's kind of just a brief part of it, like focusing on the process. But part of focusing on the process leads into number 5, which is seeking feedback. And this can be scary. And I talked last week about having the CRO walk with me and pitch to some of the brands that we spoke with on the floor of the show that we were at. I was terrified of him because he's the highest revenue, or I don't know, sales guy at the company. I don't know, but he's got a really high title. That's what I'm trying to say here. John, if you're listening to this, you're my friend. I'm sorry. Anyways, but he was just listening to me, and I asked him some serious feedback. I said to him, I was like, hey, listen, I'm terrified to ask you this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Where did I go wrong in that last pitch? And it turned out, if you listen to the last podcast, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but he's like, you know what? You did great on this. Could have done better here. X, Y, and Z. But ultimately, that helped me improve my own selling process and my way that I would go and talk to some of these brands. It also helped boost my confidence because I said, okay, well, I'm not going to be doing this. I'm not going to pitch this way because he said not to do that. I'm going to instead take some of that feedback and apply it. And since doing that, I feel like I've gotten better. And it's just important that seeking out feedback is it should be part of your life. Oftentimes, constructive feedback is hard to hear, and sometimes you just don't want to hear it. But doing that helps you learn and improve. And you have to be open to criticism if you want to grow. So that's all I would say is just, don't be scared of feedback. Ask for it and be genuine about it. And if they give you feedback and you're like, ouch, that kind of hurt a little bit, ask yourself why and make some changes. Going into number 6, it's emphasizing the power of yet. And I found this online, this piece, and it's kind of interesting. But the reason I brought this one up is instead of saying, I can't do it, add the word yet. And it sounds simple, but it's like, hey, it's true. For me, going back to the marathon training, I'm not a marathon runner yet. Instead, I could have said, hey, I'm not a marathon runner. But I'm not a marathon runner yet. I have to progress to the point. I have to train. I have to work hard. I have to fuel my body and be healthy. But I'll get there. It's just going to take some time. So I'm not a marathon runner yet, but I will be. So tell yourself that. If there's something you want to do, I don't go to the gym every day yet. Okay. So what changes do you have to make to get there? I'm not the best at reading a book yet. I don't have the best schedule for staying consistent on my homework yet. Like, ask yourself these questions or tell yourself these things. Be patient with yourself and find ways that you can grow. So yeah, it sounds cheesy, but I mean, it's a powerful principle. So yet is, but also like, hey, put a schedule on that, put a timeline on it. I'm not a marathon runner yet, but I will be on June 2nd when I run. So set a goal of like a time when you want to do something, right? And going into this point number 7, which is like learning how to learn and develop a love for learning. You need to be curious all the time. You need to be eager to learn new things. Seek out these opportunities to expand your knowledge, your skills, and all these other things. My girlfriend, she's like, hey, you know what we should do is let's go to a Spanish class. Let's go learn how to speak Spanish. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of cool. I could, order some fajitas at a restaurant a little bit better, but like, yeah, why not? Let's go try it out. And let's go challenge ourselves. Let's go learn something. If we hate it, hey, we don't have to learn Spanish, but at least we tried. At least we seeked out like knowledge and learning. And I would say like I've been doing this a lot. I've been trying to apply this to my own life. It's crazy how much I've been able to grow. Just try and learn. Put social media down for 20 minutes a day and instead go read a couple articles or read a book or go listen to a podcast. Not this one if you don't, you already listened to this one, but go listen to some other ones. Go teach something. One of the best ways to learn something is teaching. Like if you want to get better at, I don't know, Spanish, learn how to speak Spanish and try and teach it, because then you'll become better yourself. And the last one is the most important one. I think that's embracing change, because I mentioned this last week about how change is one of the only things that is consistent in our lives. It's uncomfortable. It's hard. I mentioned that I've been making a lot of changes in my life, and initially it was difficult, but now it's like I feel very, very not comfortable. That's the wrong word, but I'm learning how to love change and how to embrace it. Need to be open to change and see that as an opportunity to learn and grow as well. Embrace these new experiences, challenges, and even if they make you feel uncomfortable, embrace it and try and push yourself. And then, it ties into all the other ones, like focusing on the process. You have to be uncomfortable if you're going to be doing that. Seek feedback. You're going to be uncomfortable. But if you embrace that change from the feedback and you actually apply it to your life, you'll probably be better off. So that's the last one, is just embrace change. And I know this is kind of like a lot of random points. And so I also wrote a quick just example of what like having a growth mindset could be. I know I talk a lot about the gym, talk a lot about like work and professionalism. But let's say, you want to learn a new skill and an instrument is something that you've been trying to do. For me, I have a dream of playing the piano. My grandpa was I think he was a professional piano player. I know he at least played on the radio once. So that's kind of cool. But no one else in my family plays the piano. And I'm like, I want to start that back. I want to bring that tradition, and try to challenge myself. So, learning an instrument is hard. It can be challenging. Instead of getting discouraged and giving up, you can adopt a growth mindset and try and apply some of these principles. Embrace the challenge and view these mistakes as opportunities to learn. Because you're going to mess up a bunch. If you sat me down in front of a piano right now, I'd have no idea what the hell to do. And then if you gave me like some sheet music, I tried playing a song, I'd probably mess up the entire time because I don't know how to read sheet music and I don't know how to play the piano. So there you go. Sorry, that's terrible. But you have to embrace these challenges. So if you want to break apart the process of like those 8 steps, there's a few things that you can do. So you need to reframe your thinking. Instead of saying like, hey, I can't do this, reframe it to like, I can't do this yet, right? And that goes back to the power of yet. And then you can continue that thought and say, hey, with practice though, I'll continue to get better. I'll continue to learn. This shift in your thinking is going to acknowledge that you're capable of growth and improvement. So you have to acknowledge that yourself, like, oh yeah, I can grow, I can improve. And then you just have to embrace that you're going to be learning the entire time, rather than fixating on the end goal. Like I mentioned before, you're not going to be able to play an instrument perfectly right away. That's just not going to happen. And you need to celebrate the small victories. Okay, you played hot cross buns on the piano. Let's go. Get excited about that, because you couldn't do that a month ago. Celebrate these new little victories that you face. Maybe it's mastering a new chord. I don't know. And, continue to seek out feedback. If you have a music teacher or a friend who plays an instrument, ask them. Say, hey, can you just come listen to this for a second? Tell me where I'm going wrong. And use this as, instead of oh, they're telling me I'm terrible at this. Use it instead to identify areas that you can improve and guide your own practice sessions, right? So they say, hey, you know what? You're doing good, but your pinky finger's a little weird. You need to strengthen that up a little bit before you play this piano. I have no idea if that's even a problem, but I'm just throwing that out there. And so maybe you go and you do pinky exercises with some weights. I don't know. Try it out. But apply that and then use it in your own practice sessions. And then realize hey, if you compare yourself to other people, that's where you're going to see these thoughts of I can't do this. Don't compare yourself to others. That's just bad. Instead of thinking that like some people are just born with talent, realize that you can develop it. Right now, I bring up the podcast example all the time, but it's true. I'm not the best at it right now. Give me 5 years. Let's see how I get. Maybe I'll be like, I don't know, talking on stage and it'll all just come naturally. But I'm not the best right now. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. I have an outline right here. I'm reading. Not all of it, but like I'm just going through different points. But without it, like I wouldn't be able to just rattle all these things off my head. I had to do research. I had to learn how to develop a growth mindset for myself before telling you guys to do it. And when things get hard, the last thing I would say is just persevere. Use that resilience and don't give up. Never give up. That's where you fail, is if you give up. If you learn and you apply these principles, you learn from these mistakes as opportunities to grow, and you keep practicing until you reach that goal of where you want to be, then you'll be good. By adopting a growth mindset and focusing on the process of learning and improvement, you can overcome challenges and achieve your goals. Whether it's playing an instrument, running a marathon, starting a podcast, seriously any other skill that you want to develop. Start slow. Realize it's gonna be a process. Enjoy the process, and then along the way, celebrate these victories. Be proud of yourself for trying. Going back to the example of the piano, hey, be proud of your effort, not your talent. Your talent will come if you continually put in the effort. So be patient. There's a reason people go to college to be a doctor, right? They're learning that entire time. They're taking tests. They're challenging themselves. It's hard. It's not an easy thing to do. But at the end, they're, a heart surgeon, or they help with psychology, things like that. You don't become an expert overnight. It takes time. You don't run a marathon overnight. You can. I think David Goggins might have actually done that. You just decide, hey, I'm just going to do this. But that's a bad idea. I wouldn't suggest it. David Goggins is a specimen. I'm just going to say that he's from another planet. But be patient with yourself and take time to really reflect, because that's where the real growth, in my opinion, comes from, is when you reflect. I've been journaling a lot, which is interesting. I've a spreadsheet at work that I journal on. So I like track where I'm seeing success on. And then I'll just like write a note at the end of the day of a couple things I learned from other people, from different resources that I learned from. I try and listen to podcasts, books, YouTube videos all the time, just like of how people are getting better at their own skills. But that forces me to think about my day and be like, okay, well, where did I see success? Write it down. Where did I fail? Write it down. I also do that at the end of the day for like my personal life. I've been writing in a journal. It's fun. It's going back, like it's fun to go back, I don't know, 5 days ago and be like, wow, that was my mindset 5 days ago. No, that's a bad example, but you know what I mean? Like it's fun to go back and see where you were and where you're going. And the fact that like you never stop learning. That's what I would say the biggest part of a growth mindset is. Always be curious. Be anxiously like seeking out education. And that could be a bunch of stuff. So maybe instead of looking at TikTok, you take your girlfriend and you go check out the Natural History Museum in your city. Or, you know what? That's a bad example. I don't want to do that. You can go learn how to golf. Goofy golf, even. I would actually suggest goofy golf because that's a lot more fun. But be patient with yourself. Practice these principles and you'll be fine. Like, realize life is, it's not going to be over tomorrow. And you have an entire life to develop yourself. You have an entire lifetime to work on yourself, celebrate these small victories. And then the other thing is like pay it forward. If someone's struggling, if they're trying to develop the same talents that you did, go help them out. Give them some feedback. Constructive feedback, but do it with a, little nice attitude there. That's what I'd say is like never be too hard on yourself. We often are. And be patient. And always seek out education, learning, whatever you want to call it, but try and grow. That's really it. That's the topic I wanted to cover today. And it's simple, but don't limit yourself. Never do. I've done it before and it's not a fun life. Like you tell yourself you can't do one thing. And I've been talking to this guy. His name's Mitch. He always tells yourself, he's like, anytime you have a negative thought, look at it with curiosity, fascination, and then grace. And what he means by that is like, hey, why am I feeling this? This is fascinating. So like, you ask yourself, hey, I'm curious about this. And then it's like, it's fascinating that my mind's thinking that way, or that kind of thing. And then, you know what? I'm not the best yet. And that's grace. But I'll get there. So yeah, go do what you want. Like, hey, start small, but work towards it. And you'll get there. If you're consistent, if you're patient, if you're resilient, you seek feedback, you try hard. It's the biggest thing. Two things in life will never go away, and that's endless work and challenges. But look at those challenges as opportunities, and look at that work as improving and improvement. So that's really it, guys. Quick episode this week, about 30 minutes long. One of these days I'll just come on here and like by a fireplace, give some fireside chat stuff. I'll maybe get in a row with a. It's a bad idea. No, I'm not doing that. I'm excited about this week. I'm having my buddy Karsten come onto the podcast. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna be talking about some good things. We're gonna be getting after it in the gym and then recording a podcast. So gonna be a lot of fun stuff. But hey, believe in yourself. Go out there. Do what you don't think you can. And if you fail, don't look at it as a failure. Look at it as an opportunity to learn and grow. Keep getting after it, everybody.